Let's get into our presentation and some intros. So hi everybody, I'm Ceri Mescall, Managing Director of Strategic Proposals in Canada. I've worked in proposals for almost 20 years, which means I've seen my share of the midnight deadlines, sometimes the last minute inputs, and sometimes all the chaos that comes with the job. I'm an APMP fellow, 40 under 40 winner, and an approved trainer. But what really gets me excited is helping teams win smarter with less stress and a bit more strategy. So thanks again for making the time to be here today. I know everybody is really, really busy. Graham.
Hi, everybody. Graham Ablett, Director of SP, APMP fellow, approved trainer, like Ceri. Way too old to probably didn't even do 40 under 40 when I was under 40. So I missed that boat. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time, more than I can quite remember, nearly 20 years working at SP and more than that in the bidding arena. So I've navigated through all of those things that Ceri talked about there and more. And I'm really passionate about this topic and this subject, exploring how AI can make the bidding process smarter and more efficient for everybody.
Okay. So as we know, AI is everywhere right now, across industries, across functions, and certainly across the proposal world as well. It feels like every week there's a new vendor and a new tool launch. That kind of bore out at APMP BPC Nashville, which is where I was last week, in terms of those new vendors emerging. Always seems to be a promise of time savings, a new conversation about how AI is going to change everything. And I think for many proposal professionals, the reality can sometimes feel different. So a couple of stats for you. So firstly, 59% of teams said they're already using AI in some way, but 35% said that they still feel overwhelmed by it. So if you're curious about AI, but maybe you're feeling a bit stuck or a bit stressed out, you're not alone. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And here's the thing that surprised me most in some recent polling that we did. And that's this 80%. So more than 80% of proposal professionals describe themselves as having more of a growth mindset than a fixed mindset when it comes to AI. So it's not about, resisting change. It's not about people refusing to learn or being afraid of the future. So what's the real challenge? Well, what we're seeing and what I suspect many of you are feeling isn't a lack of willingness. It's a lack of support, a lack of strategy, a lack of realistic expectations for how to make this work day to day in what can be, a very complex, messy, high stakes world within proposals. And I think that's why this conversation matters. So we'll start off with a quick pulse check in the chat. If you had to sum up your current feeling about AI in one word, what would it be? And if you want to put that in the chat, and we'll give a couple of moments to see what comes through. A lot of excited, which is good. That's more positive than I anticipated. Intrigued.
Fun as well.
Yeah. What else are we getting, Graham?
Daunting, frustrating, curious, confusing.
Yeah, I think...
Big friend now from Reggie.
Okay.
Friendly.
Yeah.
Scary. Time saver. Yeah, some good words coming in.
So we're kind of all over the map there, which is what we'd expect. But I think excited is a reflection of that 80%, operating with that growth mindset. So Graham, now on to what we're going to cover today.
Yeah, thanks. I want to set a couple of expectations about what today's session is and what it's not. So let's start with the nots. So we're not going to spend the next hour debating whether AI can write a proposal or not. And we're also not here to rehash some of the usual stuff around data privacy and should we build our own tool or buy something off the shelf, because probably most of you have already had those conversations internally, probably with management as well. And to be honest, from what we're hearing from talking to people like you guys, is that those areas aren't the ones where people are tending to get stuck. It's from different areas. So actually, the thing that we keep hearing isn't should we be using it. It's more like, well, the question that's appearing on the screen now. How do we make it work in the messy, complicated, high stakes reality of bidding, and without burning our team out, wasting budget, or automating chaos? We're all super busy, right? And we get the potential of AI. So the question is more, how do we make use of it rather than should we? I suppose is what we're hearing. So taking that as an input into this, here's what we're going to focus on instead. Firstly, the real world blockers. So things we're hearing from people like you, not looking at looking at it through rose tinted glasses, but the nuts and bolts of it, the hard stuff. So we're going to look at it from that perspective. We're going to give you a framework to help you understand perhaps where your team sits today, and maybe pinpoint why maybe you're getting stuck and what's holding you back. And then thirdly, we're going to give you some practical ideas on how to move forward if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed today, and get you on track. Good news, it's not complicated, the stuff we're going to share. So who are we targeting today? Who's the audience we want to be here? Who's this for today? Well, kind of it's for you guys, because if any of these things sound familiar, which I'm sure some of them will, and feel free to drop a comment in the chat again if you want, I'm sure these will resonate with you. So maybe you're in a position where you've been told to just get on with it. Get AI working. Come on, it can't be that hard. But in all likelihood, you got no training, no plan, no extra time available to actually make it happen. Or maybe you've sat through demo after demo after demo, but you're still really scratching your head and not sure where to start or how to start. Maybe your leadership is excited about AI and you're getting it sort of pushed down on you, and probably they want to be able to say we're using it to stick it in some board report, but you're the one that's getting stuck managing all those expectations. Or perhaps the fourth thing is you're just feeling curious and hopeful about it, excited about it, but just a bit overwhelmed by all the noise that not just from the vendors. So any of those things there sound like that's going on in your world, then you're in the right place for the next 50 minutes or so. We're hearing these sorts of struggles again and again and again across the industry, whether it's people working on big bids, small bids, complicated ones, short lead times, long lead times, hearing it across the board. But the way these struggles manifest themselves, though, can look different. So before we kind of dive into solution mode and start giving you our views, Ceri's going to introduce to you 5 proposal personas that we've realized just keep coming up in the sorts of conversations we've been having. Ceri.
Sure. So here's where we start to make this real, because like Graham said, while the challenges of AI and bidding might feel slightly different depending on where you sit within your organization structure, we're seeing the same patterns start to emerge across teams and across organizations. So we've distilled what we're hearing and what we're seeing into these 5 key personas. And they're not hypotheticals. They're the voices that we're hearing on virtual coffees, in webinar chats and Q&A sessions, and in our consulting work with clients as well. And as this is a presentation about AI, and maybe this will irritate our graphic designers a little bit, but we've been a bit tongue in cheek. We asked ChatGPT to generate the images for the persona, so we'll have a little bit of fun. So these are the 5 that we keep seeing. So the first, overwhelmed proposal manager, then our cynical writer. I think we probably know a couple of those. Hopeful innovator, so that reflects that exciting word that kept popping up in the chat. Then we have this tool pusher executive, so the C-suite that's just seeing the numbers on a spreadsheet, and the stretched thin knowledge manager, because all of these AI tools, the use cases to date have been around content development. So that's affecting all of those, and we'll go through these one by one and explain who they are and a bit about them. So the first is the overwhelmed proposal manager. So essentially they are the plate spinner. They're balancing kickoffs, compliance, reviews, all while fielding these, can't AI just do this faster type questions and expectations from leadership. They're really feeling the weight of these manual, time-consuming, maybe inconsistent processes every day. Although their mindset, like 80% of proposal pros, tends to lean towards growth oriented. So, they want to change, but maybe they're stuck in reactive mode. They want AI to help, but without some kind of structure, it's just feeling like more and more chaos. In terms of their pain points, there's three there. So, last minute inputs and rework is a big one. Tool first leadership without that process mapping is a real pain point for them. And finally, no clear plan for AI integration, training, or a way to manage and measure ROI as well. If I was to kind of pull up a quote from what I keep hearing, their big frustration is, I'm told AI is going to save me time, but I'm still the one chasing SMEs and approvals in my evenings. And the reality there is, like we said, 35% of proposal pros are feeling overwhelmed by AI adoption. And I'd say the proposal managers are on the front line of that struggle. Next, we have the cynical writer. So they are the story shaper. They're focused on this persuasive messaging, connecting with the evaluator, the win themes, obviously, not just compliance. They might be a bit suspicious of quick fix content automation that sacrifices quality. Their mindset, growth minded as well, but they're a highly critical thinker. So, while they might see things like prompting, editing, quality assurance as essential skills, they might feel like they're being sidelined a bit as well. In terms of their pain points, there are a few. So they don't want to see content development drafting dominated by speed rather than strategy. They're frustrated with what leadership understands as good writing and what that requires. And maybe they're also frustrated with AI output that misses that nuance and impact that you'd get from a human writer. If I was to put a quote to from the cynical writer, it's normally AI can write, but can it persuade? Can it connect with the client's needs? And the reality for them is the sweet spot for AI proposals right now might be content development, but without that skilled human revision, we're just producing faster boilerplate. Next up, we've got the hopeful innovator. So they are the change champion. They're the first one to test tools. They're first to put up their hand and ask, what if we did it this way? But the flip side of that is they're often left holding the bag. They're expected to lead all of this innovation, sometimes without leadership support, without enough time for sure, and a lot of the time without enough budget as well. Their mindset, I'd say leans towards a growth mindset. They're high on curiosity, willingness to learn and evolve with the technology, but maybe frustrated with a lack of that structured testing and ROI measurement as well. In terms of their pain points, I'd say endless demos with vendors, but without a strategic pilot. They feel like they're just spinning their wheels. No time to balance innovation with the day-to-day deadlines, and can sometimes struggle to align the use cases with real proposal pain points. And their frustration, like the thing I'm hearing from them is, I'm just caught between let's go innovate and do things differently, and we need to also just hit the deadline.
Cool. I'll take the next couple. So you might already be feeling like these feel quite familiar kind of people. You might have come across this one as well, the tool pusher executive. So these folks are the ones who are, I guess, the efficiency thrill seekers. They're looking for, and they love to invest in tools quickly, eager to get fast turnarounds, save a bit of money. And they'll be the people who really believe in AI's potential. But what they might do in that belief and that kind of rush to get to that advantage is risk skipping the people and process conversations, focusing on the tool. So their mindset will be on growth, change and evolution. They love a good new shiny gadget. And so they'll be focused on tech first. These sorts of folks are the ones who will prioritize that speed and that volume. Pushing more out the door, perhaps quicker, will get us an increase in win rate, rather than thinking strategy and quality and getting that balance right. So the pain points that come in for the tool pushers is they're pushing for that return on investment, but they want that return really quickly. So they don't necessarily do it in a controlled way. They don't have structured pilots or user training. They're going straight in, all in, trying to get those results quickly. And they expect those results to come quickly without necessarily the need to test it fully or make sure we're getting the gains that we're actually thinking we're going to get. And then the other thing they're probably finding some struggles with will be, and what they might find is they're pushing their team to use a new tool, and they're risking pushing people towards burnout rather than finding the breakthroughs that they're really looking for. So these people would be the folks who are looking at what's happening, going, why haven't we cut proposal times in half yet? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? So some frustrations there. The last one we've got, the persona, but by no means least, is the person we're calling the stretch thin knowledge manager. And I can visualize some of these people myself. I know quite a lot of them. Now, the knowledge manager, of course, is always the custodian of content, right? They spend their time frantically trying to keep things in order, and whilst ensuring all the new good stuff from your organization gets added in. They know that bad data in is going to equal bad AI output. They're big on governance, content hygiene, knowledge sharing. That's what they're all about. But they can sometimes be seen as the quiet voice in the corner. They're not on the front line. They're not there doing the bids, and as a result, possibly they're often sidelined from making decisions around AI. The AI is kind of being done to them. So though their mindset is on growth and development, they're usually cautious and realistic with their approach to AI adoption. They know from success of running and managing libraries that success comes from augmenting, not replacing human inputs. You need that combination of the two. And you need clean, structured, up-to-date, of course, content to make it work. Now, the pain points that we're hearing from these guys is they're saying, I don't want to let AI loose on my library as the quality isn't there yet. Or that I'm still constantly chasing and hounding to keep things up to date now. So let alone what's it going to be like when we add AI into the mix. Or I'm just too busy firefighting to get our content organized in a way that's going to get the best out of AI. And their biggest concern is going to be, if we point the tool at our library, it's not good enough at the library. It's not quite up to date. The quality isn't quite there. So it's just going to produce bad content faster. So that's our five personas. I don't know if you're seeing yourself or any of your colleagues in those personas, or maybe your whole team feels like one of them, or maybe you're seeing bits of each. Would really like to know what you think of those personas to see if you're aligning to one or two of them. So we're going to do a super quick poll if the powers of technology allow us. So I'm just going to launch that now. The poll should appear in the middle of your screens, hopefully, and you'll see the little visual and the titles of our personas. There's one at the bottom called a little bit of all of them. So if you can have a look at that, guys, and just let us know if you're aligning to any of those. We've got 30
about 110 people on. We've got about 50 responses already, so
it's not too bad. And we've got, at the moment, the majority of people are feeling like a little bit of all of those. And I think Matt Doyle's just said, "Yeah, I'm kind of seeing all of those in our company," which actually isn't a surprise, but it's kind of part of the problem. Actually, kind of part of the problem. I can see myself in some of those as well. So no, that's really interesting. We'll share those stats actually when we follow up. I mean, the truth is that most of us don't really fit in neatly into one of those boxes, right? We've got fingers and toes in all of those different boxes, but those personas have really helped us to pinpoint the different pressures that are at play from the different drivers that the people have. And really identify why so many AI projects in bidding are stalling, even when there's really very good intention behind that. So let's drill into why they stall and get stuck. Back to you, Ceri.
Okay, so yeah, why do so many teams get stuck? So we've just met those five personas, and they're the proposal professionals who are living the AI conversation every day. So we've heard their frustrations in terms of the chaos, the confusion, sometimes the missed expectations. But here's the thing, I think, none of these are personality issues. Like we said, they're not about having the wrong people in the wrong role. They're not about bad intentions. They're system issues. The same blockers keep showing up again and again across roles and across organizations. And that's not because proposal teams don't want to succeed with AI. It's because the environment hasn't been designed to support success. So this is the AI success gap. This is what we're seeing. So we took a step back and we started to see the real shape of the problem. On one side of the gap here, we've got all of these leadership aspirations, the ambition and the desire to use AI to save time, cut costs, improve win rates, of course, and hopefully work smarter as well. But then on the other side, we've got the day-to-day reality. So, like we said, that messy, sometimes manual, sometimes compliance heavy, especially if you're in B2G, definitely high stakes and complex proposal work. So the question is, like we said, no longer should we use AI? It's how do we close that gap in the middle without burning out our people or automating chaos? So here are the some of the blockers, the three big blockers that we're seeing. So this first one here is no structured approach to testing. So through our research, 83% of organizations that responded to our survey said they're using AI tools without a structured way to test what's working and what's not. And the result is teams can't learn, they can't iterate or improve without having that structured approach. Second one there is no return on investment measurement. So again, a stat for you, 17%, only 17% of organizations are tracking the impact of their AI investment. And the result is AI can start to feel expensive if leadership can't prove the benefit. And then it's the proposal teams generally who are left defending the spend from the leadership team. And then the third one there is these tech first decisions with no process alignment. So the tools get bought before the pain points and the maybe the need for process improvements are understood within the organization. And the result is this automation, this AI is applied to broken processes, which speeds up bad decisions rather than helps making better ones.
Cool. So these blockers are affecting all of our personas, right? You can sort of start to see the alignment, but the symptoms tend to look a little bit different. So the overwhelmed proposal manager, they've got that drained and burnt out feeling with AIs just becoming the thing that stays toward the bottom of their to-do list, probably alongside their personal development plan, right? We've all been there. So it's just frustrating and aggravating. You can't quite get there yet, give it the focus. To our cynical writers, well, they see it as quality erosion. Yes, we can get fast drafts that might look good at a glance, but by the time I've unpicked it, made it relevant, checked all the hallucinations, I might as well have written it myself. So can't see the benefit. The hopeful innovator, well, they get tired of one dead end after another as the burden of being that innovative one starts to weigh really heavy on them, and they trudge on with no roadmap, no time, and no leadership buy-in. Back to our tool pushing execs, they get tired as well of waiting for that ROI they've committed to deliver and probably committed up the chain to deliver, and it's still not appearing. They're probably ducking the question now. And that's because the team who were delivering that for them was never set up for success in the first place, as Ceri said earlier. The last one, a poor, thin stretch knowledge manager, they're still up to the necks in it, fighting content chaos, and they're struggling to visualize how we can get from a sort of unruly, very live set of content into something that's more organized, cleaned up, and made ready for AI. And that just makes them really nervous of jumping in when it's not ready to jump in. So all of this is causing a potential mountain of frustration and stress for people. So help us out, Ceri. What can we do about it?
Oof, okay. So like we said, it's not a mindset gap, it's a structure gap. And how do we introduce some of that structure? The answer is really simple to say, but it's really hard to do
Yeah.
well. What we're hearing over and over again is, it needs to be, consideration for the people and the culture, then the process, and then the technology within that order. We've heard from a number of clients and people in my network, when teams flip that order, when they start with the technology first, that they're seeing these AI initiatives stall, they're wasting budget, and they're burning out good people as well. So what does it take to move from overwhelmed to on track? We'll address that on the next few slides. We'll align that with that order that we just mentioned: people, process, technology. So the first one is people here. So the number one thing we hear from proposal teams is we've got the tech, we've got the tool, but we don't know where to start. And it's not a resourcing problem, it's a confidence problem. So, a few ways we can solve for that as organizations. First thing is provide basic training on things like prompt writing, AI editing, and review strategies as well. Now, that could be training from your tool vendor, or internal training through your learning and development team, or an external consultant there, but something that empowers your team to use the tool correctly. Next thing is helping teams build a prompt library together. So don't work in silos. Let's share what's working rather than just what's possible. And the final thing there is give permission to learn. So AI enablement, like a lot of things, is only going to work if people are given that psychological safety. They're allowed to experiment without fear of failure being seen as a bad thing. I think we've all seen, the tech isn't cheap, and a license just being unused is obviously not going to deliver value. The skilled, confident, empowered people within our teams do.
Cool. So that's the people aspect. If we move on to the process element, what we're saying is the second phase. We see this as a battle between integration and automation. What you don't want to have is the tool and then realize it doesn't work in the way that you do and your people do. The tail's trying to wag the dog, and we know that's not the right way around. You can't treat AI like it's a plug and play solution, expecting the automation elements of it to fix some of the process problems that might have been there already. So if the process is broken, all the automation is doing, right, is speeding up the failure. So how can we solve that? Well, three things that would help. Strongly recommend start with thinking about the process. Map the process. It might be a process document sitting on the shelf somewhere. Look at that again. Who is doing what, when, and why, and are they using tools today? You might be surprised that it's not completely consistent across the team if you're running a team. So map your processes first. Number two, audit your content library before you feed it into an AI tool. Make sure everything is in the right place to the right level of quality. So feel that confidence before you're going any further. And then thirdly, align your AI use cases to where the pain is. Okay, if there's no pain points, do you really need to fix it at the moment? There's normally are some pain points, so focus on those. So don't just use the tool because you have it. Use it where it's going to genuinely help you, and sometimes that just helps you focus on certain areas. And guess what? Some of the best use cases we're seeing and hearing aren't in the content development stage, even though that's where over 90% of people tend to focus. Here's three interesting ways to use AI that we've heard recently. Number one, doing first passes of contracts while we're waiting for legal to catch up. Two, doing a real quick shred of the RFP and aggregating data to help accelerate that kickoff meeting, get information out to people without them having to wade through tons and tons of documentation. And three, using predictive analytics to remove some of the human bias that you get out of those hard go, no go decisions. Okay, so maybe the pain point isn't in content development, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe that's where you should focus. But once you've got your process ducks lined up, then you're ready to start to look at the tech. And if we said enough so far, there's a reason that if you haven't got the message so far, there's a reason why you consider tech last, right? You may even find you need different tools for a range of pain points. There's not one answer to the pain point question. But once you've started to identify the tools, the temptation is then is to start spending and using. But there's an awful lot to be said for a staged implementation. So our guidance here would be don't just dive straight in and roll out a tool across your entire proposal process on day one. Start small, pilot, test it, measure it, prove it. Define what success looks like before you start testing it. What are you trying to achieve here? What's the pain point you're trying to overcome? Are you trying to save time? Are you trying to improve quality? Are you trying to up the scores with the evaluators of your bids? Run structured pilots against clear use cases and measure the real results that they deliver, and that you see they're delivering, not just what perhaps a vendor's marketing organization might be telling you. If you're accelerating content development, speeding up that process, how long is it taking you today? How long does it actually take your organization to produce a page of new content without AI? And then what's the difference when you test it in a situation where you are using AI? That's real for your organization. So here's the key. If you can't measure it, you can't prove it. And if you can't prove it, you can't defend the spend that you're making in AI. And as Ceri said, it could be a lot of money we're talking about here. Ceri, how do we wrap all of that up?
Yeah, so in terms of some top takeaways, we'll pull together what we've covered today. So some key lessons here we'll hope you'll kind of take away from this session. First is mind the gap. So like we said, most proposal professionals, they have the curiosity and the willingness to learn. The real challenge is that gap that we saw earlier between leadership aspirations and ambition and our day-to-day reality. Similar blockers, shared pain points. So the main blockers, we said no testing, no measurement, tool-first decisions without the process alignment. They're not isolated issues, they're systemic. On the pain point side, they can feel personal, but like we saw, different roles have very similar frustrations because that system isn't setting them up for success. People, process, tech in that order, like we just covered. Stop automating chaos, start with the people enablement, the process design, and then scale the tools. And then lastly, start small, fail fast. So you don't have to overhaul your entire proposal process overnight. Some of the teams that we see, driving the biggest wins are the ones that just have a bias for action. They're learning as they go, and they feel empowered to fail and to learn from that and to kind of maneuver around that and change.
Cool. Absolutely. So if I were you and I'm thinking, where do I begin? What do I do after this webinar? Here's our recommendation. Start with, keep it simple. Pick one pain point. Not 5, 6, 7, 8. Pick one pain point. Map your current process around that pain point, and assess where AI could potentially fit in. And you might find it where it doesn't fit in as well. Define success. So what would good look like? What would better look like? Is it faster, higher quality, lower effort? What is that? What is it you're really trying to achieve there? And then, as we said, pilot, measure, adjust, and then scale, rather than going straight to scale. Ceri, main takeaways. Sorry. Yeah. So we'll leave you with this. Sorry, we'll leave it getting excited then. We'll leave you with this, guys. Challenge for most teams that most teams are facing with AI in bidding and proposals isn't a resistance to change. Okay, we've got around that, got our heads around that. It's dealing with change in the day-to-day bidding reality, which is what we've been hearing and why we're recommending what we're recommending. So that the teams that are the ones that are taking that reality, those blockers and pain points, and taking them seriously, they're building the right conditions for AI and their people to thrive within their processes. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. We know how packed your calendars are. You're probably juggling multiple bids at the moment, so we appreciate your time. We hope this session has helped give you a clearer path through all the noise, maybe kind of refreshed your thinking on it, given you some new ideas. We'd love to hear your questions and, any challenges that you've got, what resonated with you. So we'd love to hear questions from you, or so actually saying questions, drop any questions into the chat and we will try and answer them as best we can over the next few minutes. So please drop some questions into the chat or thoughts. And if we don't get one, I'm going to put Ceri on the spot with one.
I think maybe to kick us off, Graham, so that the one that I keep getting asked, so there's a couple of industry reports out there, a couple that APMP does with Lupio and Responsive, and the stats from that show that trying to work with subject matter experts, SMEs, and get them to meet their deadlines tends to be the top frustration kind of year on year. So something I keep getting asked is, what's the best way to get those SMEs engaged with AI supported processes? So I've got a few thoughts there. So firstly, make it easy. So things like prompt libraries, templates, simplified workflows, so that they're not having to learn a ton of new things to be able to use it. Next, focus the benefits on them. So what is AI going to do for them in terms of maybe saves them some time, reduces some rework, makes it easier to input their content and translate it into this more evaluator friendly content. What's it going to do for them, rather than what does it mean for us in terms of you're doing this to help me meet my deadline. And then I'd say avoid asking them to change too much too soon. Those small wins are going to start to build trust. And I've never met a SME that likes the word process. So trying to avoid that. Framework usually works a bit better.
Yeah, good thoughts, Ceri. We got one come in, kind of a bit of a challenge, I guess, that people are feeling. So let me just take this one first, then you chip in, Ceri. This one, the challenge seems to be lots of ideas, but not enough time to implement because, we've got a busy business as usual. I'm thinking of, some of the personas we were looking at there. And I think that's all about honing in on, not thinking of it as a massive project, honing in on where the pain point is. So if your business as usual is, your hair's on fire and you're running around like a mad thing, then why is that? Why is that you and your team are so overwhelmed with work? What is driving that? And then might be quite an easy one for you to pinpoint. But then explore, if that's my pain point, how could AI potentially help overcome that pain point? And if you kind of drill down into it as to what's causing it, drill down to it more and more, you might pinpoint a pain point which could be addressed through the use of AI. It might lead you back into a content development kind of discussion, but it also it might not. It might be that actually doing some better analysis on the incoming pipeline quickly to assess if deals are winnable or not would be a much better investment in AI versus trying to respond to put unwinnable proposals together faster. So that's why we're saying really hone in on that pain point and analyze what AI can do to help you overcome that pain point. I don't know, Ceri, if you'd add anything to that.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd add to that, and it was from a conversation I was having with somebody last week who is a CMO. They oversee proposals as well as marketing within their organization, is share the load of what you need to do around AI with people that might be using the same, if not similar, information and knowledge within your organization. So have you assessed if your AI tool could be used by marketing, by capture, by kind of adjacent functions to proposals within your organization? If they can, then share the work across those people. If not, there's probably interfaces and integrations that you can have with other systems. So learn from other teams and departments within your organization, and that might be the shortcut that you need, rather than feeling like everybody has to work in their own silo and start from scratch.
Good. Eric had asked one around privacy concerns. Okay, and I know it's been talked about quite a lot. I mean, my view on that and managing content is, there's no point looking at any tools, right? If your organization is saying you're not allowed to do this, that, or the other. So you got to know what's allowable within your organization first, and your IT team should be able to explain that to you. But assuming you are allowed to use some form of AI tool, then you've got to bring the your IT and your security teams on the journey with you to make sure that you are not falling foul of any internal privacy or security requirements or standards. So bit like working on a bid when you've got a subject matter expert. I want that subject matter expert on the journey with me. So bring in, well, before you start looking at tools, certainly bring in your IT expert to check, or your data expert to check that what you can do, what you can play with, and keep them on the journey when you start engaging further down the line with the tools. What else have we got?
The other thing I'd add to that, Graham, is just keeping a handle on your SMEs and your people that are contributing, because I think we've all seen lots of organizations have invested heavily in AI tools that do have those privacy and security considerations built in, but they've also got people going rogue, so SMEs using open versions of ChatGPT. So I think it's a cultural kind of training aspect there as well, in terms of this is why we've invested in this particular tool, and these are the risks that if we're using something that's an open system. Once the genie's out of the bottle, that's it in terms of the data.
Maybe regardless if the company's saying don't use it, people get tempted to use it if they think they can do stuff quicker, right? It becomes quite dangerous. If there's not an internal policy, develop the policy for using it in bids. How important is good prompt engineering now, and is kind of who has the best prompts going to define the winners when we're thinking about using AI in bidding? Good question from Nigel there. What's your thoughts on that, Ceri?
I think the tools have moved on. So I think we all thought initially, maybe 2 years ago, prompt engineering was going to be this new industry role within itself. I think the tools have come a long way, especially with AI agents now. So you're not having to do those prompts every time you're using a tool. It's more the mindset. It's just like working with a technical subject matter expert. You don't necessarily need to know the answers. You need to know the questions to unlock the answers. So I think nobody's going to need to, in proposals anyways, it's going to need to go and do a degree in prompt engineering. But I think the risk I see is folks doing that in isolation rather than sharing that knowledge. Getting the basics right, sharing lessons learned in terms of what's worked well and what hasn't. Maybe 4 different types of proposals if your organization does a mix of B2G and B2B.
And I think working out what prompts are working best to fix if it's maybe a content development challenge that you've got, an issue, then which are the prompts that are helping you to best overcome that challenge. Let people kind of play in that space and share that learning and come up with your library of prompts. But I kind of feel it's kind of nudged forward a little bit there with the ability now to create your own agents quite quickly and quite simply. So what was a good prompt before, developed by one person, should become the input into an agent, which then can be opened up for lots of people to use. So and of course you can make sure you're pointing that at the right thing. So that's a good question. Maybe time for one or two more. So Greg's asking a question: how can we preserve the time AI should create in our week for productive work and not just doing more bids? So we're not just saving time to spend it running around chasing even more. I guess that volume, let's use AI so we can do more kind of argument. I've got a thought on that. There's never enough time on any individual bid. You always want more time. So the argument is the time that we're saving, we should be putting back into those deals we've identified as winnable deals to help get us just a little bit further along that path to getting into kind of pole position. or getting further ahead of the competition. So it's about increasing the certainty of win. That's what I'd use the time for, rather than being able to create more proposals. I think particularly from the ones that the bid team are working on, you might have a slightly different argument from a sales enablement sort of tool, I guess. But definitely for the bigger bids where they're being qualified, that's what I would be targeting. We're trying to improve quality. We're trying to improve win rate. You do more with the same amount of resources, you're probably going to get similar results, or your win rate's going to go down, right? Because you're going to be losing more faster. So that'll be my view on that one. Ceri, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm seeing more kind of role adaptation. So whereas, historically a lot of proposal managers, proposal writers have focused on the proposal in terms of they get involved after the go, no go decision has been made, and their involvement ends at proposal submission. I'm seeing a lot of organizations now, they're using that extra time to say, how can we get these proposal folks engaged earlier, part of that go, no go decision, a more robust handover from capture to proposals. And similarly, at the other end of the process, how can we use those proposal professionals to make sure those messages from the proposal are being pulled through into presentations, negotiations, and so on.
Thank you. Good thought. Listen, just time for one more. There's a load of good questions, and maybe we can sort of address a couple of these in the follow-up, actually. So there's a couple linked to kind of bid professional, proposal professionals jobs and the market, and is AI eventually going to shrink the bid and proposals job market? And I think there's an evolution going on with roles in the bid market, and if you don't evolve as things are changing, if you don't move with the times, you are at risk of being left behind a little bit. So I think that is a genuine thing that's happening at the moment. And if you look at some specific roles within the bid process, like writing and editing, you're always going to need the skilled writers and editors to take draft content, whether that's come from a subject matter expert or come through AI in a combination of SME. You're always going to need somebody really skilled and experienced to get it from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 or 9 out of 10. So I don't think it will help in that. You won't get rid of those sorts of people. But if you're maybe really early in your career and your job at the moment isn't evolving from I'm just sort of plugging and playing and dropping answers in, standard answers into standard questions, and that's all you're doing, I think that jobs like that will fall into the AI bucket moving forward. So you've got to evolve with the times. Your organization's got to give you the bandwidth to move with the times and learn. Otherwise you might get left behind. So change, yes. Shrinking in terms of volumes of jobs, I don't quite see that, or I'm certainly not seeing it yet. I don't know, Ceri, what do you think?
Yes, same kind of thoughts. I think we're going to see a lot of hybrid roles in terms of proposals, and it could be proposals and marketing, proposals and capture, proposals and maybe presentation coaching. But yeah, I think over the last couple of years, the people that were in roles where what they were known for, their reputation, and what they thought their own value was in terms of maybe a lot of the busy work that used to need to get done manually. We're now using AI for that, and I think there are a lot of folks out there that are now perhaps feeling a bit exposed and looking at how do I upskill to move with the times. So lots of opportunity there, I think, in terms of career progression, because I think for me anyway, AI has taken away a lot of the aspects of the job that I didn't like to do that were just a bit of a grind. So kind of reshaping the role rather than cutting necessarily.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's just wrap it up. There's some really good questions on there as well. I wanted to do another one then, but we haven't really got time. So we'll try and address some of your other great questions on the follow-up that we fire out to you guys. So watch this space for some answers to those questions, because there's some great ones there, but we're just running out of time. Sorry, Ceri.
Yeah, in terms of how we can help, and we've got a ton of free resources on our website. So white papers, webinars on AI that you can see on the left there. We will do, as part of our follow-up, and you're happy to send out the slides to folks. So those are some free resources. In terms of how we're helping other clients with AI at the moment, in terms of the people side, we're working with clients on things like AI playbooks, AI charter development. From a process perspective, we're doing things like AI ready process mapping, workflow design, and obviously the content library audit and readiness support as well. And then from a technology perspective, Graham, you want to introduce MPP?
Yeah, you might have seen some promotion on this. It's a tool that we've launched, service that we've launched that helps you look at the tools that are available in the market. So there's if you've looked, there's over 100 tools in the market and that you could pick from if you're looking at automation and AI. We've done a massive piece of work to look at what's out there, what's available, and looked at a relatively high level what tools fit what type of bidding. So it might be your market, might be the size of bids you're doing, how complex your bids are. We've put all that thinking and rationale into a service. It involves a little bit of self-assessment from you guys, and then you get a recommendation very quickly on a sort of short list of tools that you should be considering based on the characteristics of your organization, the bids that you do, and then a consultation around that. It is a chargeable service. It's $500. But we've had really good feedback so far on the service, and it sometimes just helps people get kick-started in their process of looking what's out there and which tools they should be looking at. Okay.
Perfect. So that's enough with the pitch. These are our LinkedIn links. Yeah, photos, LinkedIn links there. You can find us on LinkedIn. Please do connect and drop me a message if you have any questions or anything you want to chat about one-to-one. But otherwise, we will do our follow-up with you next week. And thank you again so much for joining.
Thanks, everybody.